So Trump honestly made a bold move here. He decided, I'm going to give a speech at the Libertarian National Convention. Now, the reason why that's bold is he's the Republican nominee. That's a different party. And also, libertarians have a reputation, for better or worse, for being ideological. Like, they actually believe in their positions and their perspective. And they don't really tolerate deviating from their policy preferences much, if at all, right? Now, by the way, I actually happen to think that's an admirable quality. That's why when you look at somebody like Ron Paul, he was one of the people where the lobbyists would skip his office. There's two people who the lobbyists wouldn't even try to talk to. It's Ron Paul and Bernie Sanders. And that's because they knew, look, these guys aren't going to bend. You can't buy them off. They actually have beliefs, and they're going to just stand by their beliefs. So anyway, Trump goes and gives a speech. Now, by the way, he's like 30 minutes late to the thing, at least. It might have even been more than that. So he shows up late. That already pisses them off. There was also an incident where Trump voters came into the Libertarian National Convention, and they tried to take all of like the front row VIP seats. And then the libertarians were pissed about that. They were like, hey, man, those are reserved, and they're for us, and you can't sit there. And there was like a little bit of a skirmish going on. There were also some devastating interviews that happened on the ground where libertarians were asked about Trump. And they, I mean, to put it kindly, they hated his guts. They hated his guts. One of them said he should try to sell us gold dildos so we can go fuck ourselves with them. One of them said he should have taken a bullet. Oh, that's even too far for me. And everybody knows I despise Trump. So anyway, he comes out. Man, there were a lot of boos. There was a lot of jeering. There was a lot of, Trump was trying to win him over and telling them what they wanted to hear. But then at certain moments, he would snap. All right, let's dive in. I got plenty of videos here for you.
Now I think you should nominate me or at least vote for me, and we should win together.
Woo. Look at him.
You heard those words. Nominate me or vote. Vote for me. Because the libertarians want to vote for me, and most of them will. And it's very important.
All right, they weren't too happy with that. More. Here we go. I think this is where he snaps.
That is why I'm committing to you tonight that I will put a libertarian in my cabinet and also libertarians in senior posts. Pretty good.
Pretty good.
That's pretty big. Or you can keep going the way you have for the last long decades and get your 3% and meet again, get another 3%. No.
By the way, that's a line he kept coming back to. When he was pissed off, that's the line he would repeat. Or, hey, maybe you want to win, but some of you, maybe you don't want to win. I don't know. Maybe you don't want to win. You can keep getting your 3% in this election, and then 4 years later, another 3%. Or you can win. It's up to you. All right, I got another one on this, I think.
Only if you want to win. Maybe you don't want to win. Maybe you don't want to win. Thank you, D-Roy. Thank you. No, only do that if you want to win. If you want to lose, don't do that. Keep getting your 3% every 4 years.
So, by the way, look, I actually think this is a very complex, difficult political question, right? Because on the one hand, I absolutely understand where the libertarians are coming from. They're just like, look, you don't represent us. You don't represent our ideology. You don't represent our policy positions. No matter how much you get up in front of us now and bullshit and pretend like you're with us, you're not with us. We saw how you governed for 4 years. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. So that's one argument, and that argument has a lot of merit. The other argument, look, this makes sense to one extent or another too. The argument is, if this is even a semi-genuine olive branch, then libertarians will have some amount of sway in the room that they didn't have the last time he was president. If he's saying, hey, I'll appoint libertarians in this position and that position and this position, and there's a libertarian voice in the room when it comes time to making decisions, then you are more likely, no matter how tiny the percentage is, you are more likely to get more wins for the libertarian perspective, right? And he does go down his list of, here are my positions where I am pretty libertarian. He goes down his list on a lot of, for a lot of those in the speech. And on some of them, it's like, yeah, okay, that's true. look, libertarians love tax cuts and they love deregulation. Well, Trump delivered on tax cuts and deregulation. To be fair, the tax cuts were mostly pointed at the rich. Libertarians want tax cuts for the middle class and the poor too. That's something Republicans don't usually get on board with. But there's going to be more tax cuts and more deregulation under Republicans than you're ever going to get under a Democrat, right? And so the argument for, hey, hear him out and lend him some support is a very practical and pragmatic argument of, instead of getting the ball 0 yards down the field, maybe you can advance it 13 yards, right? And 13 is better than 0. So there's like a raw, realpolitik perspective here that if you can work within the system and get wins where you can get them and have somebody who's more sympathetic to you and willing to listen to you, then ultimately, at the end of the day, you'll be better off and closer to your idea of a libertarian utopia than you would have been otherwise, right? But I'll also add to that, look, and this is why the other perspective is convincing to me too. So this is as long as he doesn't cross any red lines for your beliefs, right? Like there's some red lines for libertarians where they're like, if you cross us on this, we don't want to hear about a practical or pragmatic, agreement between us or pact between us, because you are effectively stabbing us in the back completely by deviating with us on this crucial core idea to our project, right? So, for example, war is one of those. He might posture and virtue signal like he's anti-war. We know he's not anti-war. We saw what he did in office for 4 years. So, from their perspective, they're like, when you say you're going after the neocons and the warmongers, that's a lie. You put all these neocons and warmongers in your administration and you acted on their impulses. So, in other words, they could, the perspective for being more principled is you're a wolf in sheep's clothing. This isn't an olive branch. This isn't a semi-olive branch. This is nothing. This is you just trying to get in front of whoever you can and tell them what they want to hear to get more votes. We saw this in 2016 or 2020, where I think it was 2020, at the RNC, Trump did a Socialist for Trump spot. They had like a whole clip about how, I was a former Bernie supporter, and now I'm a Trump supporter, and he delivered on a lot of my socialist values. And it's like, what are we doing here? What are we doing? This blacks for Trump, socialists for Trump, women for Trump. He wants libertarians for Trump. This is part of his marketing. His marketing is, well, I can tell you whatever the fuck you want to hear, but when I'm in there, I'm just going to do what I want, right? And try to pull the wool over your eyes. Okay, so now I mentioned war. Now let's get to that portion of the speech because I find this really interesting. Here we go.
And I am proud to be the only president in 70 years who started no new wars. I took on the...
So you get some cheers and some not so much.
Military-industrial complex. I broke the stranglehold on neocons and warmongers on the Republican Party. And instead of war, I made peace in the Middle East, something nobody thought was possible, and dealt with Kim Jong-un of North Korea, where a nuclear war was guaranteed to start in a very short period of time.
A nuclear war was guaranteed to start in a very short period of time if it wasn't for him. Okay. So look, why is there a mixed reaction there? He's saying the thing that they want to hear, right? Because libertarians are anti-war. He's saying the thing they want to hear. But I think most of them know he's full of shit. So he increased drone strikes over 400% when he was president. This is something people rightly hit Obama for, because 90% of the time they killed the wrong people with drone strikes. He increased Obama's numbers over 400%. He said he was going to get us out of Iraq and Afghanistan. He didn't get us out of Iraq and Afghanistan. He assassinated a top Iranian commander who was in the field fighting ISIS. That's General Soleimani. So he was acting as the de facto ISIS Air Force in that instance. Libertarians don't like that. He tried to coup Venezuela. Libertarians don't like that. He ripped up the Iran agreement. Libertarians are not going to like that because that gets us more on a war footing with Iran versus we had made peace previously. They don't like that. They don't like that. Now, recently, Trump's been running around saying he wants war with Mexico. You guys have seen the clips. You guys have heard what he said. Let's designate the drug cartels terrorist entities and then go bomb them in Mexico, even though AMLO, the Mexican president, is like, fuck off. You're not bombing us. We're a sovereign nation, bro. Trump armed Saudi Arabia as they did a genocide in Yemen. And then when the Senate passed a bipartisan bill with Mike Lee and Bernie Sanders saying we're not going to arm Saudi Arabia anymore, Trump vetoed that. He vetoed that and he supported the Saudi genocide in Yemen. He did the Abraham Accords. What were the Abraham Accords? A giant middle finger to Palestinians saying you don't matter anymore. Israel's going to go around you and make peace with the other Arab nations, and we're going to have you occupied permanently, forever. Well, that helped lead to October 7th. That helped lead to October 7th. He moved the embassy to Jerusalem. That helped lead to October 7th. He took $100 million from Sheldon Adelson on 2 separate occasions and let Sheldon Adelson, an ardent Zionist and neocon, run our foreign policy vis-a-vis Israel. So, a lot of libertarians, they know this stuff, or they know some of it. And so they know he's full of shit. All right, I'm still not done yet, though. I'm still not done yet.
I will also immediately end the humanitarian disaster on our southern border. We will end it quickly. You cannot have capitalism and also have open borders, because you will soon be turned into a socialist nation, then a poor nation, and finally you will be a failed nation. By ending the border crisis, which we will do immediately, we will save freedom, prosperity, and capitalism in America.
So there were a lot of boos after that line, after his line on the border. Now, go back and listen. A lot of boos. In fact, probably more than almost any other time. Why? Why were there so many boos when he's talking about the border? Look, I don't know how many of you guys know this, but the actual true libertarian perspective on the border is we want open borders. I'm not kidding. That's the actual libertarian position. Because real, ardent, hardcore libertarians, which that audience is filled with, they believe in literally the most minimal government possible if they believe in it at all. And they're like, okay, cops, I get it. Court system, I get it. Outside of that, get the fuck out of our lives completely. And they think it is better for capitalism and better for the economy to have total free flow of labor. Wherever they want to go, they can go. They view a border as an illegitimate imposition on the part of the government. That is the actual true, by the way, you can go through the canon of, libertarian thought, and you'll see it. You'll see it. I mean, I've read Hayek and von Mises and Ayn Rand, and, I feel like in today's day and age, there are more libertarians who are supportive of the idea of a border, but the actual original true right-wing libertarian perspective on the border is they actually want an open border. They want an open border. So, and obviously a lot of people at the Libertarian Convention are true, dyed-in-the-wool, doctrinaire libertarians, and a lot of them are for open borders. Remember when Penn Jillette used to be a hardcore libertarian, and he was for an open border. So, I mean, they want, free trade absolutely everywhere, free movement of, individuals wherever the hell they want to go, literally as minimal government as possible. And in order to have like a militarized border, that is big government. They don't like big government. The actual, real, doctrinaire right-wing libertarians do not like big government. So I thought that was really interesting, booing him on the open board, on the his border position. All right, and I think that's all I got for this. But look, guys, it was kind of amazing watching this. It was kind of amazing. So after this, they had a vote for who's going to be their nominee, and Trump ended up getting like 6 votes out of 800. And so he was eliminated. Now, Trump also didn't fill out the proper paperwork to even really be on the ballot for this anyway. So even if he got through, there was a legal issue of maybe he wouldn't even be on the ballot either way, right? But RFK got enough votes to get on the ballot, but then lost in the first round. So RFK got more votes than Trump, but RFK ultimately ended up losing the nomination anyway. He didn't advance to the next round. And I think it's at the next event they have where they choose who their leader is going to be, but it's not going to be Trump and it's not going to be RFK. And look, in a weird way, I want to give them a lot of credit because it is definitely some cuck shit to have just a big name show up at your convention and bullshit you. And many of the people, I think are susceptible to the bullshit and say, hey, this big name is recognizing us. Let's just fall in line and kiss his ass, whether it be Trump or RFK. But ultimately, when push came to shove, they're truly ideological. And they're like, no, we're going to go with somebody who actually agrees with us on our positions. And so I think RFK, by the way, correct me if I'm wrong, guys. If I remember correctly, I think he got 24 votes out of the 800, and Trump got 6 or 8, something like that. So, but now they're both not going to be the Libertarian nominee. And there was, a big question about RFK said, I don't want it. I'm going to be an independent. And then at this convention, he accepted when somebody asked for him to be on it. He was like, okay, I accept. But again, he didn't make it through. So we got more coming up later on RFK anyway. We got more about what happened with RFK at the Libertarian Convention. That was also really crazy. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.